Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. I recently did a video on how much it cost for me to grow a Christmas tree and harvest the tree that I harvested this last year. And I put it out there and I got a lot of responses, many people saying thank you for letting me know. I got a lot of responses for saying, yep, that's about right. I figured out, he said I just roughly do $2 put it in the ground and $1 every year after that. And then I had some other people saying, this is not fair, Rob. Don't be telling people that we can grow a Christmas tree for $9 and we're selling them for $85 to $100 right now, and people are going to get mad. They're going to be angry and saying, why are you charging me so much? And they said that I did not accurately account for some things, and I appreciate the fact that some people reached out to me and politely said otherwise. And I like to have a growth mindset and consider things. And I want to first of all say I stand by the fact that dollar-wise cost, if you're small and you're doing most of the work yourself, you can grow a Christmas tree for $9 or less, or you could have for the last cycle of trees that just got harvested. This next cycle, it'll be interesting because the cost of everything is going up and they're probably going to be a lot more expensive. But for those of you that said I wasn't being fair, I want to express to my viewers a little bit of what you're talking about, and you're absolutely right. If you're in the business and you're growing Christmas trees, there's some things that you need to consider, and then there's this gray area between what's a capital investment and what do you own because you want to live there or that type of thing. So we're going to discuss that a little bit as we go on here, and a little spoiler alert, I'm not going to have an exact dollar amount for you this time like I did last time, because you're going to see there's so many things to consider that what is a business expense and what is not. But I talked about the investment in dollars, but we're going to talk about the total investment that could include dollars and include time, but give a more accurate assessment of what it might take to grow Christmas trees. So 3 things that we need to address that weren't there. The time, the actual amount of time. People that claim you got to factor in your time. Your time is worth something. So we're going to talk a little bit about time, and the other thing that we're going to talk about is capital investments. So one thing I want to make clear on the last video that I did on how much it takes to grow a tree, that is after your capital investments have been done on your farm. And I had other farmers say, well, there are capital investments, you have to count that in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then the third thing is there's a few annual expenses, some smaller ones, but they do add up, that I missed on the last one. So to try to be as accurate as possible, I'm going to talk about those things as well. So here we go. Okay, the first thing that people mentioned up, time. You got to factor in your time, Rob. You didn't put a dollar number on your time, and I really didn't. And so I was talking about someone like myself who has a farm that's a business, and I do have make money off of it, but it's not my primary source of income. So, for lack of better terms, it's a hobby farm. It's a little less than 10 acres. We go out there, we make some good money on it, but I have another job that provides for my family. And so I wasn't counting this in, but if this is your job, your primary source of income, especially then you have to count for more time. So a friend of mine, if you followed my channel, know the story. A friend of mine and I started this tree farm together. So we have a lot of hours in. If you'd have to count both of our hours. Our kids have helped, our wives have helped, and there's just a lot of time in there. Do I have a number for that time? No, I don't. I had a reasonable number for the time in the field, but as I thought about it, how much time have I spent? I'm the one that does the business plan and coordinating things and more of that. How much time have I spent on the phone trying to find suppliers that have Nordman fir? How much time have I spent meeting with other people? How much time have I spent driving to go pick something up? So there's not just time in the field, but there is a fair amount of time when you're trying to plan for things and plan for the time in the field so that goes effectively. There's time there, not just the time in the field. And I will tell you, if you have a Christmas tree farm, there's going to be a lot of time in the field. For our small farm, we can get our planting usually done in a day or two. We can get herbicide done in a day or two. And then we shear and we shear and we shear and we shear for a long time, especially when the trees are getting up to a decent size. So there's a lot of hours in there, and I'm sorry, I don't have a number to put on there right now. There's a lot of times that you're more efficient, and sometimes you're less efficient, but there's a lot of hours. So if you're paying your labor that you hire $15 to $20 an hour, we're pushing up towards $20 an hour for most of the time now, then you got to figure the owner's time is worth more than that. So if you're figuring $25 an hour, that's a lot. So there's a significant amount of time invested. Forgive me as I move from outside to inside. It's one of those wonderful spring days where we go from brilliant sunshine to hail to a snowstorm, and there's too many elements outside that I couldn't control. So we're going to move this inside and continue talking. The other thing that I wanted to talk about on time was simply this, not only time and hours, but time and years. Christmas tree farming is pretty unique in time and years. Other than timber or logging, it's a unique crop. So for instance, most vegetables or whatnot, the farmer sows it in the ground in the spring, grows it all summer, harvests in the fall, and they're done. That as far as their years go, that's the time. A Christmas tree farmer is going to wait 6, 7, 8, 9 years to harvest a Christmas tree. And so how do you put a dollar value on the amount of time that you've waited? There's a number of years. I can tell you from the first year we put trees in the ground, we were just putting out money and energy, putting out money and work for years. And we started selling trees after 7 years, but then it was several more years till we're actually in the black. So if you're a Christmas tree farmer, it's probably going to be 10 years before you turn a profit. So I'm not trying to scare you away. I'm just saying, it takes a while to get there. So, but that time and years not only takes a lot of patience, but it creates a lot of risk. Some years may not be bad for aphids, and then the aphids come in the next year, so they could hurt your trees. You get deer coming in there rubbing on your trees. You could get hot weather, cold weather, different things that can harm your trees. And every year that a crop is out there, it's exposed to potential for hazard, and so you could lose value and lose some of your investment. So on the trees that I gave you the price on that I planted 8 years ago and harvested this year, it was a pretty good number. The time didn't affect it and the risk that nearly as much. But I can tell you that the trees that we planted this last year, 2,000 trees that we planted, we had a record heat wave. It got 12 degrees hotter on our farm than it's ever been. Not just breaking a record by a little bit, but 12 degrees hotter. And it was early when the trees were just flushing out. Of the 2,000 trees I planted, I lost 1,970. Yep, kept 30 trees out of 2,000. So if you were to look at the cost for these trees that I'm going to be harvesting another 8 years from now, I had to replant those so that whatever the cost is to plant, I have to do it twice. So I can tell you just right there on year one, these next trees that I'm going to be harvesting are going to be at least a couple dollar value more expensive than the ones that I did in the past. So that time in years adds risk, and that's a value I can't put a number on it, but a financial number on it, but I can tell you that it's worth a lot. Another concern I had from Christmas tree farmers saying that I was putting my price too low is, how can you not factor in the capital investments? That's part of farming. And I said, I know, I was trying to make it clear to everyone that this is after my farm was set up and then we're established and we're going. But just to give you a better picture, capital investments do count. But one of the reasons I have a hard time putting a number on here is what is actually just a farm cost and what is part of what you want to do for your family or your family life. So for instance, my tree farm is put on family land. Not my family, but a friend's family land. So there's an investment in the land, a lot of value in the land, but that's not a cost to us. So let's say you go and buy 10 acres to live on, and you want to do something with it, and you decide you want to do Christmas tree farming, or pumpkins, or whatever it is you want to do. You've bought the land because you want to live out in the country, you want to have a self-sustaining lifestyle, you want your kids to learn how to work as they grow up, so you buy 10 acres out in the country. So is that cost of the land and the home a business expense, or is that a family life expense, and then you're using it to run your business? So it's hard to separate those two. And if we're being honest, it's both, but where do you separate it? If you're buying land just to farm or leasing land just to farm, that is 100% a business expense. But it is a value that's put into the Christmas tree farm, even if you bought it to live on it. You could be leasing it out to somebody else, or you could be doing something else with it. So if you want to consider the capital investment, what is the land expense? So I can tell you here in Washington State, the USDA says, the average unirrigated acre you can lease for $100, just under $100 an acre a year. If it's irrigated, it's about $400 an acre a year. So if you're leasing land, how much are you paying for it? Or if you're growing on your own land and not leasing it out, how much are you losing that you could be getting in money leased out to somebody else? And so other things like a barn on the property. Every man alive that I know that has land out in the country either wants a barn or a shop or something to store their equipment in and just have on their property. Is that a business expense again, or is that your home? So that could be a huge expense if you're trying to build a nice big barn to host people when they come out, and also to house all of your equipment. So you have to figure that in. I could tell you on our farm, I didn't figure in capital investments, but we just started planting trees. Then when it came time to harvest, a couple capital expenses that came up that we did just because we had a small Christmas tree farm is we have what we call our little Christmas cabin, our warming shed. We could do sales out of this, greet people, they get their hot chocolate there and everything. It's a small little barn. But, and we built it myself. Again, I saved a lot of money because I did it myself, but that's because I'm a project guy. But, if we were to hire someone to build this little shed with the cost of materials and whatnot, it'd be at least $10,000, probably much more. So there's a capital investment. And we're talking, this is a little tiny thing. You can't put a tractor in it or anything like that. And then something else that we figured, we had a row down the middle of the tree farm so that we could drive equipment back and forth and people can walk up and back and forth. And after our first year of harvesting, in Washington in the winter, people going up and down that turned to mud. So then we're like, okay, we got to put gravel down. And even in just a short section of the field, say 350 feet long, you're putting gravel down. That's, you could put 5 truckloads of gravel down. Just in a short run on a small farm. And at least out here to get a load of gravel delivered for me right now is about $250 a load to get it to the farm and dropped off. And so 5 loads. So you're looking at, you're going to need to add gravel. You're going to build a barn. You have to have parking. We built a petting zoo with a little shed there that made it look like a nativity scene to stay in the Christmas theme and the reason for the season. And then there's little fencing there. So even though we weren't planning on these expenses necessarily early on, those are things that we knew that we had to have. So I haven't talked about the tractor yet, the shaker, all the knives. So we don't actually own a tractor. We get away with a quad that we pull some of our equipment and spray with our quad. But, if you're much bigger than us, you're probably getting a Christmas tractor that's designed really narrow to get through the trees. So these are all capital investments that can add up. Can you do it without these things? Yes, but if you want to do it right, it's going to come in play some point in time. But at the same point in time, all these things are adding value to your property and value that you're going to continue to have. And hopefully it'll, like your barn and everything, will appreciate in value as opposed to losing value. Okay, one more thing that we need to talk about is a few things that I forgot to add that were actual annual expenses that we need to factor in. One person commented, hey, you forgot about gas. How much are you paying in gas? And to be honest, on my farm, gas is negligible. I don't use very much gas. I, spray herbicide with my quad in a half a day, use maybe a gallon or 2 of gas. My backpack sprayer for spraying aphids, I'm not using a tractor. I'm using a 1/4 of a gallon of gas. So I'm using very little gas on the actual farm. I'm doing more manual labor. But one thing that I can say that I didn't factor in as adding up is, I'm going to pick up stuff in my pickup. And I can tell you the IRS allows for 57 cents per mile reimbursement when you use your vehicle for a business use, and they usually factor that in as, you know, a small car driving, and obviously you don't burn that all up in gas, but they give you 57 cents per mile because every time you drive your car, not only are you burning gas, but you're another mile closer to your next oil change, you're another mile closer to getting new tires, et cetera, et cetera. So they figured this last year at 57 cents per mile. I can tell you, if you're like me and we're a farmer, I'm driving a pickup truck, and with the gas prices they've gone this year, I'm almost 57 cents a mile in gas. And gas alone. So although I'm not traveling a ton, I am going back and forth from the farm because it's not on my property. I am going to pick up, you know, lime and fertilizer and herbicide and sometimes seedlings, and I am putting some miles on my pickup. So the gas is one thing I did not factor in. A lot of times I try to pick up those things and tie them in with other errands, but sometimes I'm just getting in my truck and I'm driving because I have a Christmas tree farm. And I did not figure in the gas, but even larger than the gas, you know, you should almost double the cost of the gas for maintenance of your vehicle. And so that is a big expense that was not factored in. And then there's two other annual expenses that I didn't list, but there are definitely annual expenses, not a capital expense that you're done with. And one is insurance. We do have a U-Cut Christmas tree farm, and so we have hundreds, if not thousands, of people out every year to come and see our farm and are wandering all over our farm. And just in case something was to happen, and in the world we're in today, you need to have insurance. So we have a $1 million policy on top of our home, $1 million policy to make sure things are covered in case an accident were to happen. And that is an annual expense that goes on top. And then obviously there's taxes. Property taxes you have to pay. That would be a farm expense. Usually if you're farming, that you get a break on the taxes, but it's still something. On the other side of taxes though, if you're farming, you do get a tax write-off depending on the size of farm you do it. You may get a write-off for your truck, your quad, and you may end up riding your quad at some point in time for something other than farming, the barn that you built or whatever. So there could be benefits tax-wise to owning a farm for sure. But taxes are definitely an expense. And some people are like, well, your income tax, you got to pay the government. Well, I'd say that's after the whole thing is done. Then you're settling with the government. But yes, the government is always going to come and try to take their share. So as we look all this, I'm sorry, I did not have numbers. I could not break all these down, especially with the time, because even when you document time in the field, you don't necessarily have time that you spend out of the field organizing, planning, and getting ready. So for me to try to put a number, take the number of hours I work on the Christmas tree farm and times it by 25 and say that that's the expense. I could try to put a number out there, but it wouldn't be accurate. But I can just tell you time is a lot of hours. And then there's the years and then the risk. And so there are expenses, and then if you are going to have a Christmas tree farm for years, you are going to end up having capital expenses. And so to those of you that were saying that wasn't fair, and don't be telling the world that we're growing Christmas trees for this little amount and then we're charging this much, just understand I am saying that it was just a dollar amount, and I stand by the fact that if you want to do a lot of the work and you keep it fairly small and do it all yourself, you can grow a Christmas tree for not a ton of money. But that's just money. But if you count the investment that would be equal to dollars, then it's going to go up a lot more. And so you need to be aware of that. And, as I was filming the tulip farm video with Doba, who's got a huge, amazing tulip field, and he's joking, farmers don't make money, they just buy more equipment. And there's a lot of truth to that. The money goes back into the farm in one way or another. Hopefully you're building up equity in your farm as you go. This farm has been a great benefit to me over the years. I did it with a friend. I've enjoyed working with him. I have 4 sons that I've raised, and my 4 boys have learned to plant trees in the cold and wet of the spring, to shear hour after hour in the heat of the summer when it's boring and not fun, but you're doing it for a goal, a long-term goal that's set way out in front of you, deferred gain. They learn to work towards that. And then they also learn customer service when the trees are ready to harvest and people are out at the farm and they cut the tree down for them and they talk to them and they treat them well and they make sure that they're happy and having fun out there on the farm. So they've learned customer service. And my boys have learned how to work. And I've had all my boys go work for other people and had people come back and say, your boys know how to work. And that's important to me. And that's a lot of value that's added to me. Is that $1 that was put in my pocket? No, but that's value to me. So the expenses may be, high, but there is value. And consider what is valuable to you and what do you want to gain out of it. Financially, obviously you want to gain, but there's other things to be gained from Christmas tree farming. And I hope if you get into Christmas tree farming that all works out well for you and that you'll be blessed in your farming. In talking about risk, I consider risk a huge investment. You can't put a dollar sign on it, but it's a huge investment. And it's not just in Christmas trees, it's any business. There's, if you talk about restaurants that open up, I think it's 80% close within a year. They collapse. And most businesses fail within 5 years. And so who took on the risk? It's the owner that tried to lease or buy the property, who set up everything to run their restaurant, to run their Christmas tree farm. And the workers work, and if work stops, they just go get another job. But the owner that put out the risk may have lost a lot more and may have put himself back. So there is risk in the Christmas tree farm, and especially like I talked about, you got to wait 7 years to start selling your trees. So you've made a huge investment in the risk. So if you've got your trees in the ground and they've survived the heat and they've survived everything, and you've been able to grind through all the work and get to where you're selling it on the other side, if you do happen to make a good amount of money, and it's debatable how much is actual profit, how much is not, but if you did take the risk and you won, you don't have to apologize. You're the one that took on the risk. It's not the guys that are hired by the hour. It's not people that are coming by in the trees. You're the one that took the risk. And so if people are wondering, so those of you that are saying, don't give a low number, it's hard to justify selling a tree for this much if people are hearing this low number. First of all, there is a huge investment that went in, and don't forget, they took the risk. If you took the risk and won, don't apologize. Okay, so in conclusion, I still say that after your capital expenses, I know that's part of it, but if you want to put trees in the ground and just what does it take to grow a tree, if you're willing to invest the work, and I didn't put a number on the hours time, you can, for financially dollars, if you're willing to work hard, you can grow a Christmas tree at not too expensive. But if you start to scale up, you're going to have to start hiring more labor, and just know the cost is going to go up, and there are other expenses. Then you're going to want to make capital expenses to improve your farm and whatnot. So those expenses are coming, but usually a lot of those come as you're starting to make a profit. But you may not get rich farming, but like I said, there's other benefits here. And as always, I don't know everything. I admit that. And I love hearing in the comments from you people, like, hey, you missed this, or thank you. I thought you nailed this right, but you did that. Maybe you should consider this. I enjoy constructive criticism. So go ahead and let me know, hey, Rob, consider this. I appreciate the people that will, maybe point something out I should consider without name calling. We're in a society right now where a lot of people just want to do name calling. But if I'm missing something, just let me know, hey, Rob, consider this. And I will continue to learn from it. I've been in this business for 20 years now. I still have a lot to learn. I've learned so much. I'm doing better than I was at the beginning. I can still get better. And I think every farmer will tell you that we're navigating this and we're getting better all the time. Learn from others. I'll offer what I have. I listen to other people. I go talk to other people. I'm always trying to learn. Hopefully we can learn how to do this better and better every year. So thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching including horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. Be blessed, everyone.